Good morning. It is my privilege to introduce next guest speaker, dear friend. We share some common things. We are from the same hometown, Belgrade, Serbia. Also, we support the same club, Red Star Belgrade. Very important, right? He's very passionate about entrepreneurship and new technology, especially in the IT sector. His resume speaks for itself. With that being said, I would like to bring Mr. Jug Stanovcic to the podium. If you guys heard the statement, American Dream, okay? This is the true statement of American Dream. So please enjoy this speech. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me back there. I'm not sure if it's coming through. Thank you. My name is Jug Stanovcic. Thank you, Vlada. Thank you, Milan. Thank you, Marshall community, as well as the MVC for hosting this. It's been wonderful to hear about all the accomplishments of this college and wonderful speakers that were graduates from here and passionate entrepreneurs. That's kind of what I will talk about a little bit. Similar journeys, a little bit different in what we focused on, but you will hear the themes and topics from me, just like you did with Lori and T. A little bit about myself. I am from former Yugoslavia, Serbia, Montenegro, some of you know also Croatia. When I left, it was one country. Now it's 6 different countries. And what's really most common for them is that they're all beautiful. So if you haven't gone back there, make sure you do. I spent a lot of time on the coast, where my parents are from, and then in Belgrade, where Vlada and I grew up. That were my formative years. Came to Mizzou in 1992 and studied electrical engineering. That's kind of what I was passionate about. Lived college life here that's really amazing and unique. I don't think that in Europe we have things like that, like you have in the United States, where so many young people come to one place and they pretty much don't have anything else except themselves to entertain. And there's a lot of entertainment, as you know, in Colombia, so I'm sure that many of you have visited that. I do have a family. I have 2 kids, 24 and 22. My daughter's in Austin, Texas. She's a Longhorn. After much deliberation, she decided to leave the state. We fought her for it, but I guess they're now back in the SEC as well. And then son, much to our dismay, decided to go to KU, but thankfully he dropped out and is now doing better things than that. And then these are my brother and my wife's brother and their families. And this was in Telluride, the first time that we were able to ski all together after a long time after COVID and all of these things. So it's very, very special time. You guys, not sure what your stories are, but every one of the entrepreneurs has a story that they've had to overcome. One of the most difficult things for us is the dissolution of the family and having to have siblings in different cities, in different countries, etc. And that definitely makes it harder. So that support that they were talking about is really, really important. And as you will see in the story that I'm going to say and tell, those are the things that when you overcome, you're going to be much, much stronger coming on the other side. About me, I love astronomy. I think Lori showed the eclipse. I was now am officially an eclipse hunter. So I went to Texas to see the total eclipse. If you haven't seen the total one, don't believe the hype. Look for the 99.99%, it's not the same. You've got to go and see it. Next one is in Egypt or in 20 years in the US. Definitely do not miss it. I love skiing, backcountry skiing, heli skiing, and things like that. I'm a little crazy. My wife doesn't like it, but I really enjoy it. I'm passionate about that. And I'm passionate about travel, and especially travel on roads that are unknown. So this picture is from Iceland. Iceland has no signs on many of their highland roads, and if there are signs, they're eaten by the sun. So you basically get somewhere, and it gives you, two paths, and you don't really really know where to go, and you kind of have to guess. And that's fascinating to me, and there are a lot of things in the U.S. as well as in the entrepreneurial journeys that are like that. You come to a crossroads, and you don't know where to go. And you are basically left to your own devices. You pick a wrong road, and then it's a river crossing, or without a bridge or with the bridge. So that's kind of my personality, is that I seek out those things, and I relish the fact that I don't know what is going to happen, but I'm confident that I will figure it out when we get there. And that's the belief that you have to have in yourself. And some people say a delusion, not belief, but that you will figure it out. One of the most important things in the entrepreneurship that I've learned through 20 years. What inspired me to become an entrepreneur? And I was, I'm not sure how many of you have read my resume or not, but I was a chief technology officer for a company. I was a founder of a startup that sold to that company. And, how do you, from Mizzou engineering, relatively a boring degree, right? There's no geek without double E and all of that stuff. How do you become an entrepreneur? Well, what really inspired me was this, what I call, Miracle on Ice was in 1980 when U.S. beat Soviet Union in the Olympic Games in Lake Placid. But what I really witnessed in the 1980s was this group of engineers on GE that were about to be laid off, and all of us have been through families, through the layoffs, and maybe have been laid off. But what they did was basically they went to GE. Jack Welch was then doing financial modeling for them, and he was trying to make them into more of a financially driven institution, and they were going to outsource this whole team of 50 super talented engineers from all over the world. And a friend of mine's dad basically saw the opportunity there and said to GE, why don't you sell me all of these machines that we're using, and I'm going to take on the risk, and I'm going to outsource those same services to you for a cheaper price than you would if you were to outsource somewhere else. They did that in 9 months. In 9 months, they were able to get the loans, get the building, get the equipment, and organize that organization to do that same job for GE. And then after that, within a year, they tripled their sales and went from 50 people to 500 people over the next 5 years, and did an amazing job. And that gutsy move by my friend's dad, Mr. Jaya, his name is Nico Jaya, was what inspired me. I was living in a communist country where, in Europe is in general very conservative about entrepreneurship. Communist countries, basically there were no entrepreneurs beyond small shops. So when I saw that, my mind was blown away. I was a senior in high school, and I just said, I've got to come here and do that in this country. And then the other thing I learned about that is that community help for them was essential. They had gatherings of people that were computer enthusiasts. Back then you had to build your own computer. And he brought me to those, and everyone offered everyone advice. They were helping them with the computers, with getting the software, with copying the books. There's no task small enough or large enough that they wouldn't help each other with. So finding that group of people, I think, was instrumental for them and for me to see how sharing information, how talking to people, getting the mentors that will talk to you about things will make you a bigger success and will enable you to kind of think through the problems. T said it as well. It's like, find someone that is going to support you, that is going to be, wind beneath your wings, as they say, or a mentor that has gone through similar things. It doesn't have to be the same, but someone that will at least listen to you and give you a different perspective than someone that is in your industry necessarily or in your company. What I also learned about is the economic cycles of the corporations is grow, optimize, meaning lay people off, grow some more, lay people off, outsource, etc. And that is, sometimes unfortunate, but those are the things that provide you with the opportunity if you have the knowledge. So if you don't start something on your own, make sure that you pick an industry that you like and then learn about it and know it inside and out. And then when they want to optimize, you can take that opportunity and find how to do things better. And always think about how to do things better in your field. And then you're going to be successful at some point. How does that journey to success go, right? So everyone tells you these startup stories, Silicon Valley, you have a moment of inspiration. I was in a bathtub, or I was in a this or that, and the idea kind of hits, and now you validate the idea, and building the dream team. You have all of your buddies from college. We have a garage, and we're building a product, and then iterating towards perfection, and you're launching and securing the funding, talking to those money people from the venture capital world, and etc. No, that's not how it actually works. That's a dream that you see, and I'm going to tell you the story of how we ended up doing things and what happened to us. So yeah, we did have a spark of inspiration. One day right after the turn of the millennium, 2000, we had an idea to help consumers with their online shopping. And we thought that was a wonderful idea, and set out to formulate a business plan, did all the spreadsheets, did all the things that we thought people were looking for, financial modeling. Check. Great, you have an idea. What's next? Validating the idea? No, we didn't do that. Father-in-law said that it's a good idea. Aunt on mom's side said it was a good idea. Yeah, it's got to be a good idea. Let's just build it. Right? Doesn't work that way. So we just said, keep going. Building the dream team. All right, we got some money from parents, from friends, small little investment. We sought to build a team that is going to be reputable, that we can go to the venture capitalists, that we can talk to them about, our knowledge, our experience, etc., our idea, idea. Every inventor talks about the idea and not the customers. And that's one mistake you should not do. Always think about the customers. We've heard that before, both from Lori and from Pete. Think about the customers. We were thinking about the idea, recruited a couple of people, and they quit after like 2 days. They were like, yeah, you guys are not serious enough. See you later. We're gonna find someone else. That was our startup. One of them lasted 3 days maybe. The other one lasted a few weeks, and that's fine. We kind of get moving. The next thing that was iterating towards perfection, or the idea, we really did that and spent a lot of time doing that, but again, the idea is an idea and we didn't really know anything about it. And then March of 2001 happened when NASDAQ crashed and nothing happened in the venture capital industry. But we were kind of oblivious, so we said like, yeah, let's keep going, we'll find someone, right? So we, instead of going to Silicon Valley, we started looking over here in the Midwest. Back in 2000, there were not that many organizations that invested in the internets, as they called it back then and now. So securing the funding, you know what that is? It's a thing that rusts. And that's basically the answer when we had this internet idea about helping consumers with online shopping, and we went to the private equity in Kansas City. They're like, sons, we invest in things that rust. Good luck with this internet thing. And that's kind of our message to, for most people, it would be our message to like stop looking for stuff and, give up on the idea. But we didn't, and we launched it. We still kind of spent all the money that we had into the launch, and our launch date was September 11th, 2001. Most of you know what September 11th is. That was basically when we, very, very accidentally decided to launch our product. Obviously, news coverage and everything was not there. Nobody read any of the press releases that we had. That launch basically went south. Why is that important? Because once that happened, I was very, very panicked, but my business partner, Matthew, was not. And there were times when he was panicked and I was not. So that support that you have from someone is really essential. That when one of you thinks, or a spouse or a friend, when one of you thinks that it's dire and we can't go on, then the other one can prop you up. So basically, we went from double income, no kids, to double kids, no income. In those 2 years, we had 2 kids each, and no jobs. Our wives were at that time stay-at-home moms, and they went to work, and we went to kind of do the pivot and figure out what to do. So obviously, you jump in and do the first thing you can, find a consulting gig, find the gig where you can just earn some money, so you can bring something home to the table. And then on the back side, we were like, all right, well, obviously the first idea didn't go, but we've got to do something with the technology. And then you kind of try to figure out what is it that you can do. Going out, selling, talking to people, figuring stuff out, all of those things, we were kind of clueless, honestly, about what we were going to do. That's why I said no idea to innovation is like, sometimes you just don't have an idea, you're just trying different things, and sometimes you have a very clear idea, like the ladies over here. So what we were doing is, trying to figure out how to adopt the technology to something else that went from capturing the errors while you're on the internet to automating the testing for the websites or for the shopping process. And during that time, we were talking about that idea to people, and someone just misheard what we were about, and they told us essentially, hey, I heard that you guys can get the data from the internet, like scrape it of the websites. And we said, that's interesting. Yes, we can do that. Give us 3 months and we'll get to the data that you need. And that's kind of how it started. So it was a pure accident that someone did not understand kind of how it is, but it was absolutely what our technology was capable of doing. And it just took a different need and a different mindset for someone to see that, reading stuff differently. So that's important as well, is that, be open when you are inventing something or when you're innovating or with the product. Be open to that different idea. It's not always right, like Lori said, and like we went with the aunt's assessment of our initial idea, but sometimes you will find that opportunity, especially if you understand your niche and your industry. So after that, it did not become easier, but the growth was fun because you have a lot of people that are relying on you, a lot of people that you can make sure that you bring into your culture, and a lot of families, that kind of look at you in a special way because you are helping them, you are providing a positive culture, positive atmosphere, and that is one of the most rewarding things that I've experienced. I retired basically a month ago, for a while, and some of the stories at my retirement party were very touching, and I really, really felt amazing how even people that you may not think you impacted were impacted by your leadership. So for me, that was super rewarding. Every time that we would have a gathering of the company where we would have all of the kids and spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, etc. It was really amazing to see, and that's kind of what motivates you to work long hours. And long hours is long hours. I told you 90 to 100, 90 to 100. I've had months where I would work consulting and then work on the product and literally clocked in 120 hours a week for months on end, basically sleeping 4 or 5 hours, that's it, a night. My wife always remembers coming to get me after 48 hours straight, no sleep, for the deadline for one of those projects, But There was a difference between, getting paid or not getting paid, and sometimes that sacrifice is necessary. That said, back to the fun stuff, building that team is also very important. It's very important to build a positive culture and maintain a positive culture. And you'll get bad apples that are going to try to ruin it. And you have to either, if someone is a genius, kind of isolate them a little bit and see how much you can tolerate them, or simply get rid of them, because it's sometimes really not worth it. That negative energy is something that will sap you, it'll sap the whole team, and it will sink the launch. So I always tell people, when something's not working out, be brave, make a decision, and 90% of the people are going to be thankful for that. So if you see someone that is trying to undermine, that is, playing backstabbing politics and all that stuff, get rid of them. That's one of the biggest things that I think was that we did in a few cases that has helped us. And then people start having confidence in you as the leader that you are going to make the right decisions. Being fair, listening to employees, listening to the customers, but not giving in to every win, right? You can't really be, you have to have some of your vision, and you can't go with just one customer's opinion or just one employee's complaint. You have to be fair above all. So when you get to that point, that is when fun begins. Then again, using the resources is the one of the things that I touched on, but that's the most important thing is, great question about what did your spouse think when Lori was starting her company. It's the same thing. You've got to have everyone on board, because sacrifice is going to be mutual, and you are going to be partners. And they have to understand that it is not easy, that it's going to be financially difficult, and it's going to be a sacrifice on many, many fronts for most people, So you'll feel it. Times will be difficult sometimes, and it is really important that you have that in mind when you have that relationship with your partner, is that talking through things, understanding when things are tough helps. So both of us, Matthew, my business partner, and I were very lucky to have very understanding spouses, very supportive spouses, and we really view them as the co-founders of Strenuus, of our company. Utilizing local networks. Now, more than ever, here in mid-Missouri, in Kansas City, in St. Louis, in Columbia, there are so many opportunities, so many organizations that foster that startup culture, that foster entrepreneurship, that will give you some seed capital, that will connect you to people. Use those. Flyover Ventures, Midwest Angels, KC Rise, Startland organization over in Kansas City, a bunch of stuff in St. Louis. I think it's like Redbud Capital over in Columbia, associated with the University of Missouri. Anything you can to network with those people and maybe get a mentor through them is going to help you on your journey. Because again, talking to someone that has done it and listening to them, not always for everything, but at least to clarify your ideas, is going to be very, very important, and will help you. It has helped us. I always thank mentors. We had a separate mentor, Matthew and I, and bringing in those different vantage points, different points of view, always enable us to do things better. All right, now comes the fun part, sort of the fun part, the sale of the business. Once you get to that point, it is a bittersweet thing. And that's another thing that, that also happened. I don't think that we ever wanted necessarily to sell it once we got growing, but Matthew's medical condition necessitated that, and we had just simply too many things in one basket and wanted to diversify, and decided very, very heavy-hearted to sell the company. And then we started looking for the buyers, you know, and that is almost like dating, but you know that you are kind of locked in. And you know that all these people that, you know, some of them are your friends, will have to have that new stepmom or stepdad that comes in. And that is extremely difficult as well. So you talk to a bunch of people, they come and look at you, you play that game of, you know, what can I show them so that they don't go and tell the competition what we're doing, a little bit of poker, a little bit of, you know, hide and seek, a little bit of, you know, due diligence when they come in and they open your books and they, you know, send these people from, you know, I don't know, big firms like EY or KPMG or something like that to look at your books, and, you know, they're kids out of college like you that just look at it and they have no idea what the business is like, but they'll make some assumptions, you know, so you have to guide them and make sure that they understand what your business is, etc., so that you can get the best price for it, and so that you can do right by the people that have helped you, the early investors or early employees that you want to reward. And then for them, for the employees, that's going to be the shock to the system, because, you know, first of all, you're basically lying to them for about a year and a half, because you can't really tell them that you're selling the company. You know, and that was kind of the most difficult thing too, is like usually, you know, I'm very honest and straightforward, and, you know, don't really hide things from anyone, but during that process, we had to do that, and that takes a toll as well. And then for them, when they find out, you know, you're standing in front of them and telling them that fun is over, kind of, because everyone has gone through a purchase, that's a hard message, but a message that had to be delivered. I was thankful that I was able to stay for a long time, 7 years after we sold the company. So I was with the team and through that transition, and have learned a lot through that growth. But it's a shock to the system that nobody can really replace, and people have told me that, you know, it's almost like the floor drops from underneath you when, you know, it's a gut punch for them, much more so than maybe for the founders. You know, so those are the things that are always in the back of my mind, is like, what can I do to make things better in this transition process? And that's what led me to stay for about 7 years since, you know. And then we've grown a lot since then, so maybe it's time for me to take a step back and have prepared the team to jump in and maybe do a little bit more for their own careers. Let me see how we're doing with time. So far so good. I don't have too many. So the new owners that came in, we didn't pick the first one. We didn't pick the best offer financially, but we picked the one that was the best fit and we thought the best culture fit for us. And it wasn't all smooth, but when they came in, you know, they had their own things, we had our own things, and you kind of have to work things out just like in a marriage, right? When you have two people that have grown up together, you know, in high school or something like that, or college, it's a lot easier. When you have two adults that have already formed their opinions and formed their habits, it's a lot harder and it takes a lot of compromise, and that's kind of what you have to go through in that process as well. And then finally, for the takeaways for this whole journey, I have three things, and as you can see, it's like I do like to break things out in three things because I think that it is really true that you don't retain much more than three things in, you know, one topic. So I like doing that. And the three things that I have for you guys is to have flexibility, to temper expectations, and to moderate your persistence. Having flexibility is that, you know, you have to make sure that when something doesn't go your way, that you are okay with that and that you avoid the butting of the heads and to figure out just a different route and look at that different opportunity a different way. Again, mentors, friends, thinking about the problems, thinking about the solutions in a different way will help with that. And then temper expectations, meaning I don't mean limit yourself to what you can do, but don't expect it to go exactly the way you planned, because it's not going to. 99.99% of the time, it will not go as you want. I mean, if you're lucky and you get that total eclipse of 100%, everything is great, more power to you. But usually something will hit you, and it's important just to make sure that you expect that, and that will help you. A lot of entrepreneurs are A-types. You know, they have their mindset on something, and they, you know, go through and they just barge through. But that's not something that that is always good, because you're going to waste a lot of time on things that maybe are going nowhere. So, moderating your persistence is part of that as well. You know, be bold, be a bully, you know, to yourself, most than, you know, to demand of yourself the most you can. But then, you know, just make sure that when things are not going, to not push yourself too hard in one direction, but to be open to other things. So those are kind of the journeys that I went through, and would be happy to answer any questions. I didn't go too much into the innovation, but that's the core of technology for us, was basically to innovate. But if there are any questions, would like to answer those.
Who has the first questions? Mel? Better get away from the speaker.
We'll fix it.
It must be Mel's personality there. So.
Yeah. Turn it off and speak louder.
He's Serbian, so he's loud enough.
There you go.
Right?
How important is it when you go for funding that you have a non-disclosure agreement with you when you talk to someone? Or anyone, not just
great question. Nobody's gonna sign it. No VC is going to sign it because they've seen your idea. They have done it. They have 5 different companies pitching to them the very same idea. Don't even bother. That's like NDAs, no. What I would say is that whatever you give them is going to end up into someone else's hands. Because they are, unethical, basically, most of them. And they will share those ideas. So what you can do to counter that is not give them the secret sauce, number one. And number 2 is be ready to pounce on that explosion that you are going to have from your product. So get your product right, and then, you can.
We have a couple questions in the back, so we'll get Mila in the back there. While they're doing that, I want to ask you a quick question. You talked about launching on the same day as 9/11, and you'd had some problems before. What was going through your mind? Is this worth it? At that point in time, what were you thinking?
Yeah, so I was literally shocked. One of the first things that I saw when I landed in New York City in 1986 was the Twin Towers. So when I saw the Twin Towers collapse, for me that was such a shock to my system that I was paralyzed. My business partner was like, "It's okay. We'll just keep calling. We'll keep dialing. We're gonna make this happen. We're not gonna let our investors down." And that's like his dad and my brother and a friend that's still a friend right now. So didn't have a lot of money, a lot of investment, but we didn't want to let them down, and we just said, "All right, we're gonna plow through this and we'll figure it out."
Okay.
I just wanted to ask what the biggest difference was coming from Europe to the US, and then kind of what made it really fun and different from kind of being an entrepreneur in Yugoslavia, I guess it was.
Excellent question, and that was one of the things that I learned also from my mentor Nico Jaya, that the one that I talked about that sold the company and bought his equipment from GE. He was in Italy in the 60s at a very, very prestigious company, a huge conglomerate, and he told me there's nothing like the US. In Italy, in France, in Spain, Germany, if I wanted to be the CEO of that company or the chief technology officer of that company, I needed to marry the CEO's daughter. Nothing moves. There is no opportunity. It's better now a little bit, but still, leaps and bounds ahead, US, over anyone else in terms of nurturing that entrepreneurship and the support system. People just don't take risks in Europe. Very few take risks, and unless you have the money, unless you have someone wanting to risk everything, you will not have that ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem. And they're still pretty conservative and invest in things that rust, like the joke that we always tell now, but that is not our job.
I have 2 questions, if that's fine.
Sure.
The first one is, how important is it to have work experience with big corporations before starting your own business? And the second question is, with the tech industry being so highly competitive now, and with the big competitors like Google and Apple and OpenAI, Nvidia, whatever, is there still opportunity to start your own business and create innovation?
Great questions. The first one, it depends on the industry. You don't have to have experience, but if you don't have experience, you're going to have many more mistakes, and you will not know what the market wants. So It's either gonna have to be some new field completely and something completely novel, and then there is no experience that you can get with a big corporation anyway because they don't do it. But if you want to have a product that is going to sell to big corporations or industries, it's important to have that experience, to have that knowledge, and then you know what's missing and how you can fulfill that need. And then the second question was whether it's more difficult to do things now. Yes and no. Yeah, you have all these big companies, but they're getting slower. They are, innovating on a different level, and there are still a lot of opportunities that you can have. Launching your own product that is going to fill the need, because they don't fill the need and they are slow. So yes, I think it's still worth it, and you can do it, but be sure to talk to your network, like I was saying. All of these organizations, do some research, startup foundations, and stay relatively close, relatively local. There are very few investments from Silicon Valley or from New York or from Boston in our area. Chicago and Dallas are maybe the furthest that I've known that have had significant VC investment or private equity investment in here. Or move to Silicon Valley or move to a big city, to be closer to the capital that you need.
After putting all your hours into a certain business of the 100-hour weeks, is this hard to let go of that company at the end of the day? Because after you put so much effort and time in it, I can understand just selling it or whatever you're doing with it at the end. What is the emotions running through your head when you're selling a company that after you put hours and hours of work into it?
Everyone is always talking to me about, well, it's your baby, how do you feel them, basically completely changing it, what have they done to my song and all of that. But paycheck is nice, so you can't have it both ways, right? So yeah, you give that up, but you have to be ready mentally, to give it up. And not every founder is, and I think that's kind of the key is that once you decide, Bezos talks about two-way doors and one-way doors. Two-way doors, just make a decision. One-way door, think about it long and hard. And that's one-way door. And that's why you need to think about it long and hard, and then you, once you make a decision, there's no going back, so it is what it is.
Question.
That's how you mentally prepare.
Question right here in front.
What advice do you give to students that are graduating and wanting to open up their own business with no experience?
I would say that, again, it depends on the idea, but test it out first and figure out how you're going to accomplish that. So if it's a bakery or something like that, not in Marshall, not in Marshall.
Go Lord.
But if it's a bakery, make sure that you understand how things work, what the process is, and maybe you've learned that stuff. If it's a tech startup, make sure that you understand the technology or what are you solving, or an app or something like that is going to be good. Talk to your friends, figure out, use them to test it out, to test out the idea. If it's something more complicated that is like a medical device or that is something that is in the financial industry or insurance industry or healthcare industry, that is these things are very entrenched. These industries are very entrenched, and I would say that if you want to go that route, they're too conservative for someone straight out of school to penetrate, because you need contact, you need relationships, like you were saying. You need to build that network in order to get that first sale.
When you founded your business, how did you manage to grow your network, spread the word, find investors? Like, how did you get to make those connections?
Yeah, well, we didn't find any investors except the first family, but then after we decided that we're not going to look for investors, then it was all bootstrapping and then talking to people that we knew from within the industry. Finding that first customer was easy, and then saying, okay, well, I just got to go and knock on the doors of these other big companies and tell them what my product is and how I'm going to help them, right? Get the customer focus. Once you figure out that you can help one, you'll be able to replicate. But again, finding the network now is a lot easier. So looking for those organizations that will connect you will do it. And I encourage you to do that. And if you need the contact, let me know, either on LinkedIn or Vlada and Milena have my contact information, so feel free to reach out. I am, as Vlada said, very passionate about entrepreneurship, very passionate about helping young entrepreneurs, so would love to hear from you guys if you have an idea, and I'll sign an NDA if you want.
Okay. We have time for one more question before we have lunch. Anybody have one final? Right up here, yeah. Let's wait for the mic so everybody can hear. And then, of course, we'll have the breakout session so you can ask a lot more questions at that time as well. So,
I wanted to expand on moderate your persistence. You talked about it, how you have to know when you have to step back and take a look around and see if you want to keep going or not. And still you hustle for 100 amount of hours per week. Again, you came from Europe to the United States. How do you keep going knowing that your family was back home? You could have gone back home if you wanted to. You had a good degree. Why not take a 40 hours a week job? Probably would have got a good salary, 100,000 or more a year, and you wanted to pursue that. Start a business, a Strenuus, and wanted to push it and push it and push it. Was this a retiring plan, an idea, or what was in your mind to keep going?
I think, one is that you know when you're not done yet with that entrepreneurial journey. I think intrinsically you know that you want to be your boss, that you want to give back, and you want to control your own destiny. There's a difference between a product is not working, we can tweak it, or I'm gonna just completely give up and go back to the 40-hour-a-week job, or 36 hours a week if you're in Europe, with much more vacation, and then you can use these journals. But no, the promise of the payout and that independence and that community that you're building, it's just, infectious, and it's really cool and something that really inspires you to work harder.
all right. I said we're going down, but Coach has one more question. We'll let him finish.
One more question. What is the plan now when you're retired? What is the plan? What's the next step?
I'll start another company for sure. My first vacation, so I'm going to buy one of those books. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jug. Also, thank you to Trina and also to Lori. Now we'll have lunch served, and of course our breakout sessions as well. So stay around and ask all the questions. Remember, tomorrow we start at 9:15 with our welcome, and Steve Allen will be first at 9:30. Thank you for coming. Enjoy lunch, and enjoy talking to our guests, and we'll see you tomorrow.